Today, we're going to take a look at Donald Trump's approval rating after about 15 months back in office. And his numbers have been pretty low, usually low 40s to high 30s. So we'll go through several of the aggregates. We'll start here on Real Clear Politics. Right now, Trump is sitting at 41.5% approve, 56.2 disapprove. So he's underwater by almost 15 points. This is an election year. Obviously, Trump doesn't want to go into it with these low numbers. He's got to get them up, or the Republicans could be looking at a pretty bad night. That doesn't mean the Democrats are popular, but whoever's in power is going to take most of the blame. So these polls cover March 20th through April 16th, so a few days ago. And take a look at these sample sizes. Most of them over 1 or 2,000. A couple use adults, most of them use registered voters, some use likely voters. And all of them except two have Trump underwater by 10 points. So some of these pollsters more friendly to Trump, some of them not. But his worst poll here is going to be the CNN one. That's 24 points in the red. So let's go down here and take a look at the chart. So you might remember once Trump got back into office, he did have a slight honeymoon period. He was actually above water for a little bit, but that didn't last too long. And now you can see here, this gap is widening. I think the recent war in Iran is a factor, and that's already on top of inflation. That's going to be the biggest issue / the economy. We've still got a bunch of months to go before the midterms, but the trajectory here doesn't look great right now for Trump. Here's Nate Silver. These numbers are a little bit worse for Trump. Here he's under 40%, 38.9 approve, 56.3 disapprove. So overall, not totally different, but slightly worse. Here's Civics. Trump's approval even lower here at 37, 58 disapprove. That's 21 points under. And on this, he was actually never above water, even at the beginning of the term. But what about independents? That's going to be a key voting bloc. Here he's under by 31 points, 31% approve, 62 disapprove. Again, pretty weak numbers here for Trump as of right now. And there's a lot of different things you could point to, but the main reason he's going to be weak is because of the economy, or at least the perception of it. That's always what matters the most. We saw the same thing under Biden. Inflation skyrocketed. Dems said everything was fine. If you really looked into the data, voters weren't buying it. There was nostalgia for the Trump economy pre-COVID, but now after more than a year, voters again, they're not buying it. Trump's approval on the economy here on Real Clear Politics is just 37% in the aggregate. And these polls have an even bigger range. Morning Consult is only 8 points under, while Reuters Ipsos is a big 33. So again, perception is everything. Just like with Biden, Trump's going to get the blame because he's in the White House. Here we've got the direction of country, and we've got 34.1% say we're in the right direction. Almost 59% say wrong track. So about 25 points under. Now, if we go down here and take a look at this table, this one goes all the way back to 2009. And once Trump got back into office, you could see there was a sharp narrowing, similar to when Biden got in. But just like with Biden, eventually the honeymoon wore off and the lines are headed in the wrong direction. Now, it doesn't mean Trump would only get 34% of the vote or whatever his approval rating is, but it does mean there's a general dissatisfaction out there and some voters might stay home. But what about Trump on some of the other issues? Well, here's The Economist. And the key issue here on the left, inflation / prices. That issue, along with all the other ones here, actually had a net positive rating for Trump. But that was when he got back into office. And now it's way, way down on inflation. Jobs and the economy is the second worst. Now, the two better issues for Trump are immigration and crime, but those have also taken a dip since last year. So Dems would be wise to run on inflation and prices because that's what voters care about the most. That's going to cross party lines. Voters might remember that prior to Trump getting back in under Biden, voters thought that inflation was terrible. The economy wasn't great at all. So voters seem like they're willing to go back and forth. They might just think that neither side actually can tackle the economy or inflation. But every side can always point to at least a couple of metrics with the economy to act like everything is going well. Saw it under Biden, we see it under Trump. But in the end, it's all going to come down to that perception. Now here's Trump's approval rating compared to Biden, his first term, Obama, and Bush. And the most relevant two are going to be the top ones here. At this point in his presidency, Biden was under by 12. Trump is just barely worse at minus 16. Now, compared to Trump's first term, it's very similar. At this point, he was at minus 14. It's pretty difficult to imagine anybody in the White House having a solid approval rating for any kind of sustained amount of time. So we'll finish it up here on Wikipedia. This has a summary of all the different aggregates. And yeah, it does look like Trump is hovering around a 40, maybe 41% approval rating in the aggregates. It's not going to cut it if you're looking to head into a midterm election and minimize your losses. There's a lot of polarization out there. Certain voters vote on different things. Enthusiasm, also a big factor. There's a lot of different variables out there, including the candidates. What about low propensity voters? What are they going to do without Trump directly on the ballot in November? Those are all relevant questions, but a lot of it might just come down to the economy. Inflation spiked under Biden, but the prices, they're not going back down. Trump's going to take the blame on that because he's in office. He's done the tariffs. Even if there's other positive metrics under the surface, just like with Biden when he was in office, it usually comes down to how do people feel about their wallets. And it's tough out there, even with all the other stuff going on, especially with the new war in Iran. All that combined with Dems overperforming in special elections, it looks like at least a mild blue wave is emerging, if not a strong one by November. Remember though, back in 22, the Supreme Court decision happened on abortion that seemed to motivate Dems a lot more, and Republican wins that year were a little bit more subdued. So there's always unknowns that could happen just like that. And we all remember that 24 election. There was so much craziness in the months leading up to it. So we'll see what happens, but that's a recap of where Trump is at after about 15 months back in office. So let me know in the comments. How do you think his approval rating is going to change between now and November? Is it all about the economy? What about the other issues? How about enthusiasm? What does it all mean? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.